The moment Violet Lancaster spilled champagne down the front of Damien Crawford's custom Italian suit, she knew her carefully orchestrated plan to charm her way into high society was about to crash and burn spectacularly. "Oh God, I am so sorry." Violet grabbed napkins from the nearby table, her hands shaking as she attempted to dab at the spreading stain. The charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum had been her chance to finally meet some of the investors who could help save her family's struggling Marine Conservation Foundation. And now, she was assaulting one of them with expensive alcohol. Damien laughed, a rich sound that made her pause mid-dab. "It's fine, really. I've been looking for an excuse to escape this thing anyway." He had dark hair that fell just slightly into his green eyes and a smile that probably melted hearts across 3 continents. "I'm Damien, Violet, and I really am sorry. If there's any way I can make it up to you, how about you let me buy you a drink to replace the one currently soaking through to my shirt?" His grin was infectious. Violet found herself smiling despite her mortification. "I think the physics of that don't quite work out in your favor." "Then let's call it even and start over." He extended his hand, and when she took it, his grip was warm and confident. "Tell me, Violet, what brings you to this particular gathering of peacocks and politicians?" They ended up talking for 2 hours, tucked away in a corner while the gala swirled around them. Damien was witty, charming, and surprisingly down-to-earth for someone wearing a watch that probably cost more than her car. He told her about his work in renewable energy development, his passion for sailing, and his absolute hatred of small talk at events like these. "So you're telling me you'd rather be literally anywhere else right now?" Violet asked, nursing her second glass of wine. "Well, not anywhere else." His eyes held hers for a moment longer than necessary. "This corner has grown on me significantly in the past couple hours." Violet felt warmth spread through her chest. She hadn't expected to meet someone like Damien tonight, someone who made her laugh until her sides hurt and listened with genuine interest when she explained the intricacies of coral reef restoration. By the time the gala ended, they'd exchanged numbers and made plans for dinner that weekend. "I had a really great time tonight," Damien said as they stood in the museum's grand entrance. "Even with the champagne assault. I promised to keep all beverages at a safe distance during dinner," Violet teased. He laughed and leaned down to kiss her cheek. The gesture was sweet, almost old-fashioned, and it made her heart skip. Looking forward to it. Violet practically floated home that night. Her roommate, Marina, was still awake when she arrived at their cramped Brooklyn apartment. "How was the gala? Did you meet any potential donors?" Marina asked, looking up from her laptop. "Maybe. I spent most of the night talking to this guy, Damien. Marina, he was incredible, smart, funny, gorgeous. We're having dinner on Saturday." Marina raised an eyebrow. "You went to a work event and came back with a date. That's so unlike you." "I know, right? But there was just something about him. We clicked instantly." Saturday's dinner turned into Sunday brunch, which turned into a spontaneous afternoon exploring bookstores in the village. Damien was attentive and thoughtful, opening doors and remembering small details from their conversations. He texted her good morning and called just to hear about her day. Within 2 weeks, Violet found herself falling hard. "There's someone I want you to meet," Damien said one evening as they walked through Central Park. It was early October, and the leaves were just beginning to turn. "My best friend, Connor. He's like a brother to me, and I know you two will get along great." "I'd love to meet him," Violet said, squeezing his hand. They met Connor Ingram the following Friday at an upscale steakhouse in Midtown. Violet spotted him immediately, a tall man with sandy brown hair and striking blue eyes, dressed in a charcoal suit that screamed expensive without being flashy. He stood when they approached, and something flickered across his face when their eyes met. Something Violet couldn't quite name. "Connor, this is Violet. Violet, Connor Ingram, the man who's been putting up with me since we were roommates at Yale." "It's nice to meet you," Violet said, shaking his hand. His grip was firm, professional, and he held her gaze for just a fraction of a second before releasing her hand and turning to clap Damien on the shoulder. "So this is the woman who's been monopolizing all your time," Connor said. His voice was deeper than Damien's, with a slight rasp that sent an unexpected shiver down Violet's spine. She pushed the reaction away, confused by it. Dinner was enjoyable but slightly awkward. Connor was polite but reserved, answering questions about his work as head of his family's real estate development empire, but rarely elaborating. Violet found herself trying harder to engage him, though she couldn't explain why his opinion seemed to matter so much. "Connor's being modest," Damien said. "The Ingram Corporation just closed a deal on that massive waterfront development in Brooklyn. It's going to completely transform the area, while maintaining 30% green space and funding a new public park," Connor added quietly. "Development doesn't have to mean destruction." Violet perked up at that. "That's exactly what I've been trying to tell city planners about our coastal projects. You can have progress and preservation." For the first time that evening, Connor smiled, really smiled, and it transformed his entire face. Exactly. Too many developers treat environmental concerns as obstacles instead of opportunities. They fell into an animated discussion about sustainable development and conservation efforts. Damien watched them with an amused expression, occasionally interjecting but mostly letting them debate the finer points of zoning laws and environmental impact studies. "I'm glad you two are getting along, but I'm starting to feel like a third wheel here," Damien joked. Violet immediately felt guilty. "Sorry, I get carried away when I talk about this stuff. Don't apologize. It's one of the things I love about you." Damien said it casually, but the word love hung in the air between them. They'd been dating for less than a month. His eyes widened slightly, as if he hadn't meant to say it quite yet. Connor's expression shuddered, and he signaled for the check. "I should head out. Early meeting tomorrow." After Connor left, Damien walked Violet to a cab. "Sorry if that was weird at the end there. Connor's been going through some stuff lately. He's usually more outgoing. It's fine. He seems nice, just maybe a bit guarded. That's Connor. Takes him a while to warm up to people, but I could tell he liked you." Violet thought about the evening as the cab drove her home. Something about Connor Ingram had unsettled her, but not in a bad way. It was like standing too close to something powerful, feeling the energy radiating off it. She shook her head, dismissing the thought. She was with Damien. Wonderful, charming Damien, who made her laugh and looked at her like she hung the moon. Over the next few weeks, Connor became a regular part of their lives. The three of them would meet for dinners or drinks, and occasionally Connor would join them for weekend activities. Violet noticed things about him. The way he always made sure she was included in conversations, how he remembered she didn't like cilantro and quietly requested it be left off her dishes, the flash of something in his eyes when Damien would kiss her or put his arm around her waist. One Saturday in early November, Damien had to fly to Boston for an emergency meeting with investors. "I'm so sorry. I know we had plans," he said over the phone. "It's okay, work happens. I'll just catch up on some grant writing." Actually, Connor mentioned he was going to check out that new exhibit at the Natural History Museum. The one about ocean ecosystems you wanted to see. Maybe you two could go together. Violet hesitated. "I don't want to intrude if he had his own plans. Trust me, he'd love the company. I already texted him, and he said he'd pick you up at noon." That's how Violet found herself standing outside her apartment building, watching Connor's sleek black car pull up. He got out to open her door, dressed casually in dark jeans and a hunter green sweater that made his eyes look impossibly blue. "Thanks for letting me tag along," Violet said as she slid into the passenger seat. "I should be thanking you." Museum exhibits are always better with someone who actually understands the science. Connor's voice was warm, more relaxed than she'd heard it before. The museum was crowded with families and school groups, but Connor navigated them through with ease. They spent 3 hours exploring the exhibit, and Violet found herself genuinely enjoying his company. Without Damien there as a buffer, Connor was different, more open and animated. He asked thoughtful questions about her work and shared stories about his own projects. "There's this piece of land on the southern coast," Connor said as they stood in front of a massive aquarium display. "About 200 acres, half of it protected wetlands. My board wants to develop it into luxury condos, but I keep thinking about what you said about preservation. About finding ways to make it work for everyone." "What do you want to do with it?" Violet asked, watching his profile as he stared at the swimming fish. "Create something that enhances the ecosystem instead of destroying it. Maybe an eco-resort, something that brings people closer to nature while funding conservation efforts." He turned to look at her. "Would you be willing to consult on something like that? Your foundation, I mean." Violet's breath caught. "Connor, that would be incredible." "Do you know how much funding a project like that could bring us?" His smile was genuine, reaching his eyes. "Then let's make it happen." They grabbed coffee after the museum and sat in a small cafe, discussing possibilities for the project. Violet found herself laughing at Connor's dry humor and impressed by his genuine commitment to environmental responsibility. As the afternoon faded into evening, she realized she'd barely thought about Damien all day. The realization brought a wave of guilt. "I should probably head home." "I told Damien I'd call him when he landed." Something flickered across Connor's face, but he nodded and stood. "Of course, I'll drive you back." The car ride was quiet, comfortable in a way that felt too natural. When they pulled up to her building, Connor turned to her. "I had a really good time today, Violet. I'm glad Damien introduced us." "Me too." She hesitated, her hand on the door handle. "Connor, can I ask you something? Anything? That first night we met at the restaurant, did I do something to offend you? You seemed uncomfortable." Connor was quiet for a long moment, his hands still on the steering wheel. "You didn't do anything wrong. I was just surprised, that's all." "Surprised by what?" He turned to look at her, and the intensity in his gaze made her stomach flip. "By how easy it was to like you." Before Violet could respond, her phone buzzed with a call from Damien. The moment broke and Connor looked away. "You should get that. I'll see you soon." Violet answered the phone as she walked to her building, but her mind was still in that car, trying to decode what Connor had meant. Over the next month, the three of them fell into an easy rhythm, though Violet noticed the tension that sometimes crackled between her and Connor. Damien seemed oblivious to it, happy that his girlfriend and best friend got along so well. Violet threw herself into work, trying to ignore the way her heart jumped whenever Connor texted her about the wetlands project, or the way she found herself looking for him whenever she entered a room. She and Damien were good together. He was affectionate and attentive, always planning romantic gestures and surprise dates. But something was missing, some spark that she couldn't quite name. She told herself she was being ridiculous, that she was lucky to have someone like Damien who clearly adored her. The week before Thanksgiving, everything changed. Damien invited her to a charity dinner at the plaza. It was a black tie affair, and Violet wore a midnight blue gown that made her feel like a princess. Damien looked handsome in his tuxedo, and he kept his hand on her lower back as they mingled with the crowd. "There's someone I want you to meet," Damien said, steering her toward a distinguished older couple. "Mr. and Mrs. Ingram, this is my girlfriend, Violet Lancaster." Violet's brain short-circuited. "Ingram?" "Yes, Connor's parents," Damien said cheerfully. "I thought it was time for you to meet the family." Mrs. Ingram was elegant and warm, with Connor's blue eyes and a welcoming smile. Mr. Ingram was tall and imposing, with silver hair and a firm handshake. "It's lovely to meet you, dear. Connor has mentioned you quite a bit." "Has he?" Violet tried to keep her voice steady. "Oh yes, something about a conservation project you're consulting on together. He's quite enthusiastic about it." They chatted for a few minutes before the Ingrams excused themselves to greet other guests. Violet turned to Damien, confused. "Why didn't you tell me Connor's parents would be here? I wanted it to be a surprise." "They're great, right?" Damien kissed her temple. "I'll be right back. Need to say hello to someone from work." Violet stood alone for a moment before she felt a presence beside her. Connor, devastating in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, handed her a glass of champagne. "Careful with that. I'm wearing Armani tonight," he said, his tone teasing. Violet laughed despite herself. "I make one mistake and you're never going to let me forget it." "Never." His smile faded slightly. "My parents ambushed you. Sorry about that. It's fine. They're lovely." She paused. "Damien seems really close with your family." "He is. We've been friends since we were 18. Our families vacation together, celebrate holidays together. He's the brother I never had." Connor's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "Which is why this is so complicated." "What's complicated?" Connor looked at her, really looked at her, and Violet felt the ground shift beneath her feet. "You know what's complicated, Violet. Don't pretend you don't feel it too." Her heart hammered against her ribs. "Connor, I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." His voice was low, meant only for her. "Every time we're in the same room, every conversation, every moment, I've been trying to ignore it out of loyalty to Damien, but I can't anymore." "Connor, stop." Violet's voice shook. "I'm with Damien. You're his best friend. I know. Believe me, I know. Do you have any idea how many times I've told myself all of that?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident in every line of his body. "But then you smile at something I said, or you get excited about some obscure environmental regulation, and I forget every reason why I should stay away." "This can't happen," Violet whispered, but even as she said it, she knew it already had. Whatever was building between them had been inevitable from that first handshake. "I'm not asking you to do anything," Connor said. "I just needed you to know. I needed to be honest, even if it ruins everything." Before Violet could respond, Damien reappeared, all smiles and easy charm. "There you two are. Come on, they're about to start dinner." The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Violet sat between Damien and Connor, hyper-aware of every movement, every breath. Damien held her hand on the table, while Connor sat rigid beside her, careful not to let their arms brush. The tension was suffocating. That night, lying in bed, Violet stared at the ceiling and forced herself to confront the truth. She cared about Damien, maybe even loved him in a way, but it wasn't the all-consuming, breath-stealing feeling that romance novels promised. With Connor, everything felt more intense, more real, more dangerous. But Connor was Damien's best friend. The betrayal would destroy them both, would shatter a friendship that had lasted over a decade. Violet decided then that she couldn't let that happen. She would end things with Damien, gently and honestly, and then she would distance herself from both of them. It was the only right thing to do. The next morning, she called Damien and asked him to meet her at a quiet cafe near her apartment. He arrived with coffee and pastries, kissing her cheek before sitting down. "This is a nice surprise," he said. "I was going to call you actually. I have something I want to talk about." "So do I," Violet said, her stomach churning. "You should go first." Damien took a deep breath, and for a moment he looked genuinely vulnerable. "Violet, I care about you a lot. You're smart and passionate and beautiful, and any man would be lucky to be with you." Violet's heart sank. She recognized the tone, the setup. But I don't think I'm in love with you. Not the way I should be." Damien reached across the table to take her hand. "You deserve someone who's absolutely crazy about you, and I think we both know I'm not that person. I've been trying to convince myself I am, but it wouldn't be fair to either of us." The relief that washed over Violet was immediate and overwhelming. "Oh, thank God," Damien blinked. "That's not usually the response I get when I break up with someone." "I was about to break up with you," Violet admitted. "I care about you too, Damien, but you're right. Something's missing." I think we both felt it. They looked at each other and started laughing, the tension dissolving. "This has to be the most amicable breakup in history," Damien said. "We're going to stay friends though, right?" Violet asked. "I mean, assuming that's not too weird." "Of course." "You're important to me, Violet, just maybe not in the way I thought." Damien paused, studying her face. "Can I ask you something? And you have to be completely honest." "Okay." "Is there something going on between you and Connor?" Violet's breath caught. "No, nothing has happened, I swear." "But you have feelings for him." It wasn't a question, she couldn't lie. "I don't know, maybe." "I'm sorry, Damien." To her surprise, Damien smiled. "Don't be. Connor's been my best friend for years, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. I was honestly surprised when he didn't ask you out first that night at the gala." "Wait, you knew? This whole time?" "I suspected. But I liked you, and I thought maybe it was just attraction that would fade. Then we started dating, and I realized pretty quickly that my feelings weren't as deep as they should be, but I didn't want to admit it. I kept thinking if I just tried harder, felt more, it would click into place." Damien squeezed her hand. "But then I'd see you and Connor together, the way you light up around each other, and I knew you were meant for him, not me." Tears pricked Violet's eyes. "You're a really good person, you know that? So are you. Which is why I'm giving you my blessing, if that matters. Connor's my brother in every way that counts, and you make him happier than I've seen him in years. Don't let my ego get in the way of that." They parted ways with a hug and promises to stay in touch. Violet walked home with her heart racing, unsure what to do next. The idea of calling Connor terrified her. What if Damien had misread his feelings? What if Connor had just been caught up in a moment at the gala and had already moved past it? She spent the rest of Saturday trying to distract herself with work, but her mind kept drifting. Finally, Sunday evening, her phone rang. Connor's name flashed on the screen. "Hello, Violet." His voice sounded strained. "Damien just told me about the breakup." "Oh, he also said something about me being an idiot if I didn't call you immediately." Connor paused. "Did he tell you what I said? That night after the charity dinner?" "Yes." And Violet took a deep breath, deciding to leap. "And I think you should take me to dinner. Somewhere we can talk without your best friend / my ex-boyfriend present." She could hear the smile in his voice. "I can do that. Tonight." Connor picked her up an hour later, looking unfairly handsome in dark jeans and a gray sweater. The restaurant he chose was intimate and quiet, tucked away in the West Village. They ordered wine and food, but neither of them could focus on eating. "I need you to know I never meant to come between you and Damien," Connor said. "That night we met, I took one look at you and knew you were going to be important. Then Damien introduced you as his girlfriend, and I felt like I'd been sucker punched." "Why didn't you say something?" "Because he's my best friend. Because you were with him and seemed happy. Because I told myself I could get over it." Connor's blue eyes held hers across the table. But every time I saw you, it got harder. Sitting next to you at that charity dinner, knowing I couldn't reach for your hand or kiss you, it was torture. I felt it too, Violet admitted. I kept telling myself I was imagining things, that I was being disloyal to Damien. But then we'd be in a room together, and it was like everyone else faded away. Connor reached across the table and took her hand, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. The simple touch sent electricity through her entire body. I want to do this right, Violet. I want to take you on dates and learn everything about you. I want to meet your family and introduce you to mine properly, not as Damien's girlfriend, but as the woman I'm falling for. Falling for, present tense. Have been falling for since you walked into that restaurant in September. I'm pretty much gone for you if I'm being honest. Violet felt tears prick her eyes, but they were happy tears. I want all of that too. But Connor, I need to know this is real, that it's not just forbidden fruit or some rebound thing. Connor stood and moved to her side of the table, crouching beside her chair so they were eye level. Violet Lancaster, I have been trying not to fall for you for 2 months, and I failed spectacularly. This is the most real thing I've ever felt. She cupped his face in her hands and kissed him. It was nothing like kissing Damien. This was fire and electricity and coming home all at once. Connor's hand moved to the back of her neck, pulling her closer, and Violet felt her entire world realign. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Connor rested his forehead against hers. I've been wanting to do that since the museum. Just since the museum. Okay, since the moment you walked into that steakhouse and smiled at me. He kissed her again, softer this time. I'm going to be very good to you, Violet, I promise. Over the next few months, Connor kept that promise. He courted her with a single-minded determination that was both flattering and overwhelming. There were flowers delivered to her office, surprise picnic lunches, weekends away at his family's estate in the Hamptons. But more than the grand gestures, Violet loved the small things. The way Connor would text her random thoughts throughout the day, how he learned to make her favorite tea, the fact that he genuinely wanted to hear about her work and offered real solutions to problems she was facing. The Wetlands project became their shared passion. Connor's company purchased the land and brought Violet's foundation on as full consultants. They spent hours in planning meetings, working with architects and environmental scientists to create something truly innovative. Watching Connor in his element, commanding a boardroom while still respecting every voice at the table, Violet fell deeper in love with him every day. "You're incredible at this," she told him one evening as they reviewed plans in his office. "The way you balance business concerns with environmental impact. Your board must love you." Connor pulled her into his lap, wrapping his arms around her waist. "My board thinks I've gone soft. They don't understand why I'm sinking millions into a project that won't turn a profit for at least 5 years. But you don't care what they think. I care what you think. I care that we're building something that matters." He kissed her neck. "Besides, watching you present to investors is worth every penny. You get this look in your eyes when you talk about marine conservation, like you could take on the whole world. I feel like I could when you're standing next to me. Things with Damien were surprisingly easy." He was genuinely happy for them, and the three of them gradually found a new dynamic. It helped that Damien started dating a lawyer named Sophie, who shared his love of sailing and terrible action movies. The four of them would occasionally get together for dinners or game nights, and Violet was grateful that no weirdness lingered. In March, Connor invited Violet to his family's spring gala, an annual event that drew New York's elite. This time, walking in on Connor's arm felt completely different. She wasn't nervous or unsure. She belonged there with him and everyone could see it. "My mother is going to pounce on you tonight," Connor warned as they entered the ballroom. "She's been dropping hints about grandchildren since Christmas." "We've been dating for 4 months, Connor." "I know. I told her to back off, but she's convinced you're the one." "She's not wrong," he added, so quietly Violet almost missed it. Before she could respond, Mrs. Ingram swept over, elegant in a silver gown. "Violet, darling, you look absolutely stunning. Connor, doesn't she look stunning?" "Breathtaking," Connor said, his eyes never leaving Violet's face. The evening was magical. They danced until Violet's feet ached, then Connor led her out to a balcony overlooking Central Park. The spring air was cool and sweet, and the city lights twinkled like stars. "I have something for you," Connor said, pulling a small box from his jacket pocket. Violet's heart stopped. "Connor, if that's what I think it is, it's too soon," he laughed. "It's not a ring. Not yet, anyway." He opened the box to reveal a delicate silver necklace with a small dolphin pendant. "I know how much you love dolphins. The jeweler said the silver comes from recycled materials, so it's ethically sourced." Tears filled Violet's eyes. "It's perfect." Connor fastened it around her neck, his fingers lingering on her skin. "You're perfect." "I know it's fast, and I know we should probably wait longer, but I need you to know something, Violet. I'm in love with you, completely, irrevocably in love with you." "I love you too," Violet whispered. "I think I have since that day at the museum when you told me about your dreams for the Wetlands Project. You see the world the way I do, Connor. You make me feel understood in a way I never have before." He kissed her then, tender and passionate and full of promise. When they finally pulled apart, Connor rested his forehead against hers. "I'm going to marry you someday, Violet Lancaster. Fair warning." "I'll be counting on it, Connor Ingram." The summer brought the groundbreaking ceremony for the Wetlands Project, now officially named the Lancaster Ingram Conservation Resort. Violet stood beside Connor as he gave a speech to the assembled crowd of investors, environmentalists, and local community members. His hand found hers, their fingers intertwining as he talked about building a sustainable future. "None of this would be possible without my incredible partner," Connor said, pulling Violet forward, "both in business and in life. Violet Lancaster has taught me that success isn't measured just in profit margins, but in the legacy we leave behind. This project is our promise to future generations." The crowd applauded, and Violet felt tears streaming down her face. After the ceremony, Connor's parents approached them, his mother practically glowing. "That was a beautiful speech, son," Mr. Ingram said, clapping Connor on the shoulder. "You've built something remarkable here." "We built something remarkable," Connor corrected, squeezing Violet's hand. "Mrs. Ingram hugged them both. "I'm so proud of you too. And speaking of building things, when are you going to make this official, Mom?" Connor groaned. "What? I'm just saying you're clearly perfect for each other." "Why wait?" Violet laughed. "We've been together less than a year, Mrs. Ingram." "Please, call me Catherine. And a year is plenty of time when you know it's right." That night, Connor took Violet to the beach house in the Hamptons. They walked along the shore as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "My mother has a point," Connor said, stopping to face her. "Not about the timing necessarily, but about knowing when something's right. I knew with you almost immediately, Violet. I know we agreed to take things slow, but the truth is, I don't want slow. I want forever." "Connor, what are you saying?" He dropped to one knee right there on the sand, pulling out a ring box. Inside was a stunning sapphire surrounded by small diamonds, the stone as blue as the ocean stretching before them. "I'm saying I was an idiot to think I could wait even another month to ask you this. Violet Lancaster, you walked into my life and changed everything. You made me want to be better, do better, build a legacy that matters." I love your passion and your intelligence, and the way you steal my hoodies even though you have plenty of your own. I love that you sing off-key in the shower and that you cry during nature documentaries. I love everything about you, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you every single day. Will you marry me? Violet couldn't speak through her tears, so she just nodded frantically until she could finally choke out, "Yes. Yes, of course, yes." Connor slipped the ring on her finger and stood, lifting her off her feet as he kissed her. They were both laughing and crying, the waves crashing around their ankles. "I can't believe you proposed on a beach at sunset," Violet said. "That's so cliché." "I know, but you love the ocean and I wanted it to be perfect." Connor kissed her again. "Was it perfect?" "It was absolutely perfect." They called their families that night and the congratulations poured in. Damien sent a text that made Violet laugh out loud. "Told you he was crazy about you. Congrats to my two favorite people." The wedding planning consumed the next few months, but in the best way possible. Violet and Connor decided on a ceremony at the Wetlands project site, wanting to celebrate their union at the place that had brought them even closer together. The resort wasn't finished yet, but the natural beauty of the location was undeniable. On a perfect October afternoon, exactly 1 year after Connor had told Violet how complicated everything was, she walked down an aisle lined with native wildflowers. Connor stood at the end in a navy suit, his eyes bright with tears as he watched her approach. Damien was his best man, standing proudly beside his friend. "You look beautiful," Connor whispered as Violet joined him. "You're not so bad yourself," she whispered back. The ceremony was intimate and heartfelt. They'd written their own vows, and when it was Connor's turn to speak, his voice was thick with emotion. "Violet, I spent years thinking I understood what love was supposed to feel like. Then you spilled champagne on my best friend, and somehow ended up changing my entire world. You challenged me to think differently, to dream bigger, to build something that would outlast us both. But more than that, you saw me. The real me, not just the businessman or the heir to a fortune, but the person underneath. You make me want to be worthy of that vision you have of me. I promise to love you fiercely, support your dreams relentlessly, and always, always keep the fridge stocked with that weird fancy cheese you love. I'm yours, completely and forever." Violet was crying so hard she could barely read her own vows. "Connor, the first time we met, I felt something shift. I tried to ignore it out of loyalty and fear, but you were patient and understanding and you let me find my way to you. You've given me so much more than your love. You've given me partnership and respect and a shared vision for the future. You challenge me to think bigger while grounding me when I spin out. You're my best friend, my confidant, and the love of my life. I promise to adventure with you, to build dreams with you, and to love you more with every passing day. Thank you for waiting for me. Thank you for being exactly who you are." When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Connor pulled Violet into a kiss that made the assembled guests cheer. As they walked back down the aisle together, hand in hand, Violet looked around at the wetlands they'd preserved and the family and friends celebrating with them, and felt perfectly, completely happy. The reception was held in a large tent overlooking the water. Damien gave a best man speech that had everyone laughing and crying. "I've known Connor since we were 18 and equally terrible at adulting," Damien said. "He's been my best friend through everything, and I've watched him build an empire with intelligence and integrity. But I've never seen him truly happy until Violet came into his life. Yes, I dated her first, and yes, it's a little weird, but I'm man enough to admit when I'm not the right fit for someone. Connor and Violet were meant for each other in a way that was obvious to everyone but them. I'm honored to have been part of bringing them together, even if it was accidentally. To the happy couple, may your love continue to grow, and may you always remember that I introduced you, so all future children should be named after me." The crowd laughed and raised their glasses. Later, as Violet and Connor swayed together during their first dance, she laid her head on his chest and listened to his heartbeat. "What are you thinking about?" Connor asked, his arms tight around her waist. How different everything could have been. "If I hadn't spilled that champagne, if Damien hadn't introduced us, if you hadn't been brave enough to tell me the truth. I think we would have found each other eventually. Some things are just inevitable." "You really believe that?" Connor pulled back to look at her, his blue eyes serious. "I believe you were meant to be mine, Violet Ingram, and I was always meant to be yours. Everything else was just the universe figuring out how to make it happen." Violet kissed him, not caring that they were in front of everyone. "Best man at the wedding, huh?" "Brother, actually," Connor corrected. "Damien's been asking me to make it official for years. I think we might finally do the paperwork and make him my legal brother. Which means you fell for my best friend first, but my brother is the one you married. Funny how things work out. The universe has a twisted sense of humor. The universe gave me you. I'm not complaining." 2 years later, Violet sat on the porch of their beach house, one hand resting on her swollen belly. The Lancaster Ingram Conservation Resort had opened to rave reviews, winning awards for sustainable development and bringing significant funding to marine conservation efforts. Connor's company had shifted focus entirely to eco-friendly projects, and Violet's foundation had expanded to 3 new locations. But more importantly, they'd built a life together. A home filled with laughter and love, lazy Sunday mornings and passionate debates about zoning laws. They'd traveled the world exploring coral reefs and rainforests, always together. Connor came out carrying 2 glasses of lemonade, settling into the chair beside her. "How are my girls doing? Your daughter is using my bladder as a trampoline, but otherwise we're perfect." Violet took his hand and placed it on her stomach, where their baby girl was indeed quite active. "She's going to be just like you," Connor said, his voice filled with wonder. "Strong and passionate and ready to take on the world. God help us both then." Connor laughed and leaned over to kiss her. "I can't wait for all of it. The sleepless nights and the diaper changes and watching her grow up in the world we're building for her." Violet thought about the journey that had brought them here. Meeting at a gala, the months of confusion and longing, the courage it took to follow their hearts even when it seemed impossible. She thought about Damien, who was now legally Connor's brother and actively planning his own wedding to Sophie. She thought about all the ways things could have gone wrong but somehow went so perfectly right. "I love you," she said, squeezing Connor's hand. "Thank you for being patient with me, for waiting until I was ready." "I would have waited forever," Connor said simply. "You were worth every moment of uncertainty." As the sun set over the ocean, painting the sky in brilliant colors, they sat together in comfortable silence. Inside Violet's belly, their daughter kicked and turned, already making her presence known. In a few months, they'd welcome her into the world they'd built together, a world of possibility and promise. Violet had walked into that gala a year and a half ago hoping to save her family's foundation. She'd walked out having met a charming man who would introduce her to her soulmate. She'd fallen for the billionaire's best friend, completely unaware that the brother he would become would be her forever. But as Connor pulled her close and whispered promises of forever in her ear, Violet knew that every twist and turn had been worth it. Some love stories were simple and straightforward. Theirs had been complicated and messy and absolutely perfect in every way that mattered. And now, sitting on the porch of their home with their child growing inside her and the man she loved beside her, Violet couldn't imagine any other ending to their story. This was it. This was forever. And it was more beautiful than anything she could have imagined.